There's your man Andrew, coming back to you with True to Game videos. And today I'm going to be answering a question from one of my subscribers, Ulkim. He's from Turkey. Sorry if I butchered your username there. And he writes me asking about music to use for the World of Darkness, in particular for Vampire. Now, he asked about this, and he sent me a few samples of what he's currently using, so I have some degree of idea what he's looking for, so it's more specifically towards him. But I'm going to try to make this general and broad enough that everyone can perhaps take away some bands that they might be able to interject into their World of Darkness games. Now, remember, the feel that the writers and developers of the old World of Darkness system were going for was a gritty, urban, gothic punk feel. So, a lot of bands under the title of gothic or the title of punk are going to be particularly appropriate and apropos to the setting. However, there's a lot of metal bands that are going to fit in very well, and depending on what sort of NPCs and PCs you have and what sort of scenes you're trying to tell, you can vary the music up. Music should be very reflective of the scene that you're portraying. You might have a hardcore, gangsta type guy, and you might want to use some rap music for that character. You might want to use some elegant classical music at a black tie affair put on by the Toreador Primogen that's attended by all the sniping harpies of the city. You might want to have some very grungy music for some of the Bruja, or you might want to have some extremely sort of instrumental haunting music when you're dealing with some of the other stranger things, the cold wind whistling through the buildings. The characters are out there, particularly on their first nights, experiencing the horror that is being one of the living dead, to really articulate that mood and put that set and tone into the player. Because the World of Darkness, to be achieved well to any degree of quality, you need to really focus on mood and tone. The texture of it is really what the game is about. Because mechanically, the World of Darkness is not a particularly strong game. It doesn't have a great deal of mechanics. It's sort of a loose game, and it's loosely organized to allow for more tone, more mood. This is not a game that you need to have the lights on high. Think about that lighting. Do you bring the black lights in? Do you turn the light volume down to about half? Do you turn the lights off and light about a dozen candles in the room, or do you have particularly odd-looking candles to help accentuate the mood? And it's really that exquisite mood that can make the scene so highly evocative in the player's minds. We typically, when we would play, all the lights would be off, there'd be candles on, would have various music playing, and then lots of pictures that are particularly give you particularly good visual fodder for understanding the scene in your mind. Seeing that person on the page, or depicted through pixels, and how that individual or entity can sort of play across your mind. Because World of Darkness really needs to take place in your mind, and that's extremely important to make sure that you're understanding when playing a World of Darkness setting. Now, the music also, you can really have music that stays with an NPC, theme music for an NPC. Pick out like maybe 7 to 20 of your different NPCs and start giving them theme songs. Maybe theme songs for your player characters. Now, you can also play songs that are a sharp contrast to what's going on. Now, you want to make sure it doesn't come across as hokey. You don't ever want to be hokey, but it can be even give you a more stark feeling of horror when the music is completely off. And music can be almost random too. You could be like, okay, this is the music playing on the car radio, or this is something you hear bleeding through the walls of the apartment while the vampires and they're gorily eating someone. You have like Build Me a Buttercup playing, because that's coming through. And if you do a sloppy job describing it, that's going to destroy your scene. You're going to come off comical. The players will be snickering and laughing. But if you really give them the horrendous, vivid, gory details of what is going on with the taking of life and the eating away of someone's essence, the draining of blood, the ritual of sexual carnal, primal, bestial savagery, and you really articulate that through them and with intensity. That happy-go-lucky music in the background can kind of be even creepier. Also, you want to remember volume. Sometimes you want the music to be really loud, as if you're not playing any music, and then boom, you hit them with the loud music. You start throwing out tons of descriptive details. The fast scene begins. Boom, 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 and you have that running. Now, I'm going to give you a list of bands I think particularly are going to be helpful and applicable to what you're saying, but these should be good to every single World of Darkness game, and particularly Vampire the Masquerade. A lot of them would also be very good for Wraith the Oblivion, as those are the two more gothic games. Or any mage game that has a more gothic bent to it. There's a large other list that I would probably recommend in addition for any werewolf games. But one of the go-tos... Well, let me start off first with my A CD. I should have actually gotten the CD and brought it out here. The cover artwork is amazing. Glenn Danzig's Black Aria. Now, Glenn Danzig's Black Aria is an all-instrumental album. It's haunting, sweeping, beautiful. It's essentially written by Glenn Danzig to be a soundtrack for John Milton's Paradise Lost, which is a wonderful epic poem. Anyone that hasn't read that, go read it, particularly the first 4 books of Paradise Lost. They are absolutely amazing. After that, it downgrades a bit. That's really A. Also, another band that does music similar to that. Glenn Danzig also put a Black Aria 2 out, which is nowhere near as good, but still pretty good. And this is very different from the Danzig music, which also can be very good for a World of Darkness game. But that's like blues and metal, and it's a whole industrial, some gothic. It's a whole Danzig's a whole different thing than the Glenn Danzig 2 Black Aria CDs. Another band, Nox Arcana. I can't say enough about them. There's maybe, I think every single one of their CDs really would be appropriate for World of Darkness. Excellent. Some of their music is haunting and beautiful. I think I have every single one of their CDs, and they put out like one every season. I mean, they pump CDs out. Other bands that are new age sort of music can also be sort of good. The Cocteau Twins, Enigma, Day Can Dance, bands like that. One of the other World of Darkness go-to bands for me is Depeche Mode. I think some of their music is great, and some of the covers that other people have done for some of their songs can also be very good. Lacuna Coil has a good cover. Marilyn Manson has a good cover. There's quite a few great, really, Depeche Mode covers going around out there that can be very nice when set up. I like to write up a playlist of music pretty much for every game, and I go in there. I use tons of music. There's probably going to be a bare minimum of 25 songs played during any game I'm running. I mean, that's a really low number, probably well over 50. So some other bands, Tool, Perfect Circle, The Changelings, Black Tape for a Blue Girl, Christian Death, Sisters of Mercy, Typo Negative, particularly Black Number 1 and Christian Woman, Dark Princess, Mortal Love, Lake of Tears, Judas Priests, Before the Dawn, Blood Red Skies, When the Night Comes Down, Angel, Prisoner of Your Eyes. There's a few others good Priest songs for the setting. Lords of Acids, Kiss Eternal. It's a really good vampire song, particularly for an embrace scene or a scene where vampires are feeding. Xandria, actually one of the Depeche Mode covers here. Lacuna Coil's Enjoy the Silence, Lacuna Coil's Heaven's a Lie. A lot of Hymns albums, particularly off Razorblade Romance. I think that album is particularly vivid for a vampire game. Doro's Black Rose, Love Me in Black, and her duet with Lemmy, Alone Again. Johnny Cash's God's Gonna Cut You Down, Ain't No Grave, and Hurt. All wonderful for a vampire game. Megadeth's A Secret Place. See some more bands here. Unsung, Serenia, Nightwish. Either the new or the old Nightwish. I think they're both very good for vampire, particularly the song Amaranth, which I guess would be a new Nightwish song. Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare, Poison and Gale, Corrosion of Conformities, Clean My Wounds, Fields of Nephilim, Ozzy Osbourne's Road to Nowhere, and his duet with Lita Ford, Close Your Eyes. Helmets Unsung, Within Temptation. Susie and the Banshees, especially their Tinderbox album. Solstafir, Dio, Prince's When Doves Cry. That is a great song for Vampire. And if you kind of twist it and think about the lyrics being applied to Vampire, you know, it's really kind of a creepy deal. Twisted Cane by Danzig. Theron, Come Undone by Duran Duran. The Cry Little Sister from the original Lost Boys movie. There's about 20 different versions of that song. Evergrey, Concrete Blonde's Bloodletting, the Vampire song. A lot of Miles, Black Velvet. Soundgarden, Rusty Cage, which I think is a particularly appropriate song for vampires because they are creatures that live in the gilded cage, trapped within the city, within their own machinations, within their own fears and angst and horrors. And I think it's quite a good song. I like to have a lot of sort of subtext to the music I have, and there can be a lot of additional storytelling told within the music if you carefully select and put the bands together, the songs together, and you orchestrate and coordinate them with your scenes. That, and of course, it's kind of it's a very advanced storytelling thing, I suppose. But taking that and coordinating them, thinking of them ahead of time, you know, plotting down your lyrics, and there can actually even be little bits and hidden clues within songs for players to pick up on if they're particularly perceptive, and they start tying that in with other bits and pieces, your overarching plot lines, or even small plots that are situated around a particular NPC or even a PC, and they start picking those own things together. Dream Theater's Pull Me Under, that's a really particularly good song for any World of Darkness game, really, particularly if you're coming through that transition period. And there's so many good soundtracks out there that I'm going to give you three. I just narrowed it down to my top three, but there are probably hundreds I could have put on this list. But I'm going to go with Interview with a Vampire, Bram Stoker's Dracula, those are two classics, and Devil's Advocate, which is also quite good. So those are some specifics that I would recommend for playing any World of Darkness game, particularly Vampire the Masquerade. Could easily just be applied to Vampire the Requiem as well. And either old or new World of Darkness, a lot of them are going to go well to a Ravenloft game, to a D&D horror game, to a more horror-bent Warhammer game, to a Call of Cthulhu game, particularly with the modern, like a Delta Green. So these are definitely bands that you might want to take a look at. Probably not all of them are going to be perfectly suitable to any game or to any game master, but there should be something you can find in here that can be evocative of that passion to get your creative sparks going. And when you're kind of thinking and planning a game session, writing your scenes out, I think it's also a great idea to sit down and listen to the music, because they can jar loose some additional pieces of wonderful creativity in your mind. So that's, again, another strong piece of advice I would give to you, is to really sit down and allow the music to just envelop you. One more. Bruce Dickinson, Tears of the Dragon. That's another one I think would be quite good for you. So those are some albums, some suggestions. I would ask any of my viewers to please leave some comments as to bands, to tracks, to types of music that they think are particularly appropriate to the World of Darkness, and especially Vampire. Either edition, the musically they're not going to be that different, I suppose. So hopefully this was some help to you, and if there's more specific questions, please feel free to ask them, and I will try to address each of those for you. Again, always remember, anyone out there who has any questions, I'm always happy to give you my opinions and options, and always open up all my videos to responses if anyone else wants to go to the lengths of doing a list that's going to take a lot longer than the 500 characters. Feel free to do that as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to let me know what you think of any of those musical selections that I have picked out here for our friend, and thank you for the request.